I'd like to call to order the Town of McCandless business meeting. Business meeting for August 26, 2019. Invocation by Councilman Mertz.
I only have one remark, as short and to the point as possible. I do hope that the council pays special attention in the future and reminds themselves that they are here for the community as a majority. They're here for the people, not a few people at a time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to announce that council was in executive session today at 6:45 to interview a police candidate as well as to discuss town litigation. Is there a motion to approve the meeting's minutes from July 8th, July 15th, and July 22nd?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or any additions that need to be made to the minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting last month's minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Under announcements, I want to make sure that everyone knows that Community Day is September 14th, beginning at noon till 9, which is followed by fireworks. And also, I'd like to remind everyone that the Nike missile presentation at the Heritage Center is September 19th at 7 p.m. I think that's going to be very interesting, something about our community that a lot of people don't know about. Item number 6 is administer the oath of office to Sean J. Davis as a police officer. Chief?
Madam President, thank you. Good evening. At this time, it is my honor to introduce Sean Davis, our newest Town of McCandless police officer, who will be sworn in with us tonight. Sean stated to me yesterday in a text, "I am grateful and humbled at the opportunity to serve here where I grew up and spent my whole life." Sean brings a pure and sincere enthusiasm to serve our community to the best of his ability. Sean has a very impressive background. He began his education at St. Teresa's of Avila Elementary School. He went through the North Allegheny High School system. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Slippery Rock University and then graduated from the Allegheny County Police Academy. Sean brings an array of certifications that will be tremendously beneficial to our department and our community, including firearms instructor, SWAT certification, field sobriety training, and most impressive, crisis intervention team. He's achieved all these during his career with the University of Pittsburgh Police Department. Most importantly, I believe he is a young man with strong convictions, an independent thinker who will continue to do what he feels is best in the best interest of this community. I believe he will be a tremendous asset for this town for many years to come. At this time, I would like to call Sean up, and Councilman Schwager will be administering the oath of office, and Sean's girlfriend, Haley, will be pinning his badge on tonight.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Sean Davis,
I, Sean Davis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you. Congratulations. Yep. Thank you.
So I just want to thank town council, first of all. It's no secret you guys only hire the best possible candidates, so I'm very grateful to be in this position. Also thank Chief DeSanti. I look forward to working for you, sir. And then to my parents who are here tonight as well. My parents have been residents here for 40 years. This is where I was born and raised. So it's a tremendous honor for me to be here, honestly. I look forward to providing the best possible police service to this town for my career here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chief.
Recognition of community organizations. The American Association of University Women, officially founded in 1881, is a nonprofit organization that advances equality for women and girls through advocacy, education, and research. The North Hills Pittsburgh branch collaborates and partners with La Roche University to provide these educational programs to our community through fundraising. Deborah Rosenfelder, will you please come forward with your team? This certificate recognizes the North Hills branch of the AAUW for its dedication and hard work for the betterment of the town of McCandless. And it reads as follows: for enriching our local community with educational and inspirational initiatives to empower college-educated women to continue their intellectual growth, further the advancement of women and girls, and improve their lives and the lives of their families.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate what you're doing. Thank you so much. I just want to thank the town council and Kimberly. I want to thank you so much because you have been so supportive of our branch in the past. And this is a great opportunity because it lets us get the word out to the community of some of the educational programs that we put on. They are all free and they are all open to the public. So hopefully we will see some of you at some of these events. Thank you so much. This is greatly appreciated.
The North Hills Art Center is located on Babcock Boulevard and is a 501(c) that offers art-based classes, workshops, and camps to the community. They also offer gallery shows and partner with other local nonprofits to bring art and art education to the North Hills area. Most recently, they partnered with the EAC in displaying the town's recyclable art show, which are the ribboned entries are in the hallway out there, so if you get a chance, please see those. Please will Kim Freihaller help me? Come forward, please. Am I even close? Yes. Okay. Good. I want to thank you for your support and encouragement in our art show and the efforts you make to make the North Hills a more beautiful place.
Thank you so much.
This reads, in recognition of your commitment to providing quality art enrichment to our community as demonstrated by your participation and support of the Town of McCandless Environmental Advisory Committee's first annual, and we're saying first annual because we plan on having more, recyclable art show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for what you do. Reports of committees, Finance and Personnel Committee.
I move to approve checklisting number 8 dated July 4th, 2019 through August 7th, 2019, totaling $768,398.69 as submitted to each member of council and posted on the bulletin board and town website.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or additions by council to the checklist? Any comments from anyone, any citizens on the checklist of bills? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting checklist indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 2, I move to authorize settlement with Westview Water Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
There will not be any comment on this matter because it is a litigation matter. All those in favor of accepting the settlement indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That- That concludes the Finance and Personnel.
Zoning Committee.
Move to adopt resolution number 22 of the 2019 series, a resolution approving the implemental comprehensive plan for the town of McCandless.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions by council? This has been a work in progress for a year and a half. There's a lot of people in the community that have put in a lot of time and a lot of effort. I think it's a good plan. I think it's a good plan. We appreciate everyone's input in all your comments. Are there any additional comments from citizens on the comprehensive plan?
Hi, good evening. Marcia Caliendo, Abbey Lane. I'm here to support the passage of the comprehensive plan, as I believe it's important to solidify a vision for our community. A lot of people have been calling this a blueprint, but I see it more as a roadmap. A blueprint tells you how something should be constructed. A roadmap provides many routes one can take to get to your destination. We can follow a path, create a new one, or not go anywhere at all, but we should have a destination in mind. As a member of Town Council, I would think you would want a roadmap for our future. There are items in the plan that are simple, and some that are complex, and some that are controversial. Some of the items in the plan are expensive and could potentially take years to implement. There are parts of the plan that personally I don't agree with, and I'm sure not all of you agree with everything in the plan either. But we all know that each item moving forward will be discussed and will be thoroughly vetted. And I trust that your decision to decide to implement will be based on all of that information. So I hope that you vote to support this plan. I think we need to establish a vision for our community for the next 10 years and beyond. And thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Hearing none, there's been a motion and second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to appoint Michael Lamb as the second alternate member on the zoning hearing board with a term to commence immediately and expire December 31st, 2021.
Second.
Any comments from anyone in council about this nomination? Any comments, any citizens? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to accept the resignation of Chuck Parker, a member of the McCandless Uniform Construction Code, International Fire Code, and Property Maintenance Code of Appeals Board. I second the motion.
Any comments from council? Any comments from citizens? All those in favor of accepting this resignation indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd also like to announce that, so this position will be posted tomorrow as on the town website, as well as the other boards, committees, and authorities that will be coming due at the end of the year. So if you're interested in serving on any of those, please, you can go to the website and fill out an application, or you can come down and fill it out in person, whichever would you like. There's quite a few positions coming up, so please consider this. Public Safety Committee.
Move to adopt ordinance number 1491, an ordinance to establish escalating penalties for conviction for keeping or harboring a dog, cat, or other animal which constitute as a nuisance.
Second.
Any comment from council?
Well, we know that I've been opposed to this. I think it's a bit extreme. I did do another poll. I know you guys don't necessarily want to hear what the people say, but I asked if this ordinance was, what they would like to see in this ordinance, if this one was too much, if this one was not enough, if cutting everything in half from this ordinance was enough, or if that was still too much. 92 people said all, or 92 out of 118 said all of them, or 108 said all of them. 13 said that cutting it in half would be okay. Only 6 said this ordinance would be okay. So 5% of the people who answered the poll thought that this was acceptable. It's extreme. $180,000 maximum. I know it's not likely. Thousands of dollars within the first week if it happens daily. A lot of people will have to lose their pet simply because one person refused to take care of theirs properly.
Any other comments by council? Chief, do you have a, there was some questions that I had heard about, how were the police gonna handle this? How were they gonna decide what was a nuisance or what wasn't a nuisance, or were they just gonna come and fine everybody? So I asked our chief of police to come up and just maybe give us a little statement on that.
Madam President, thank you. I do want to talk tonight relative to the proposed fine increases in the nuisance animal ordinance, but also as it pertains to calls and how we process those calls and concerns and complaints and how the officers investigate them. What I want to tell you is that we base everything on fairness, common sense. The information that is conveyed to us when we conduct an investigation is documented precisely, and every attempt is made to speak to all parties, to hear every side of the story. There are concerns that there will be people that will be unjustly punished. That's not going to happen. We will investigate the circumstances, and at the conclusion of the investigation, the standard procedure is to use good, sound judgment and common sense. The officers talk to everybody involved, and we try to resolve these issues as a neighborhood police department as amicably as possible. That sometimes doesn't mean citations are issued. I sat here and I listened what you experienced in that neighborhood, and my heart went out to you. And this council sincerely, we immediately met almost after that meeting. They want to do something to make sure that doesn't happen. And I will tell you, under my command, that will not happen. And what happened to you, if it is reported and investigated, it will be justly dealt with. I promise you. And I understand the sincerity of your concerns, and I heard the stories that you told publicly. We also, if there's an animal in any way, shape, or form there's neglect, we will take care of it. And unfortunately, there really so many, not so much bad pets as there is bad pet owners. And that's the sad thing, but we will hold them accountable, I promise you that, but fairly. The facts of the investigation are always presented at the magistrates. We're talking about checks and balances on these things, that they can be fair. And the magistrate uses good common sense and discretion too, and he works with it to make sure that these incidents don't happen again. Sometimes the offenses are only witnessed by the good citizens. So we will tell you that you need to appear. We will file on your behalf, but you'll need to appear, and you'll need to swear to what happened and document that. And we will support you in that wholeheartedly. All cases that we decide to charge is reviewed by the officer in charge and is reviewed by me, and then we give permission to file the charges. We don't do this, we take it very, very serious. If it is a serious incident that escalates, the district attorney is conferred to, and they have specialists in these particular areas that we will review the facts with and we will follow appropriately to hold the people accountable. I will tell you this, I stress to the officers every day, and they do a good job. We will be as fair as professional as we can to all citizens while performing this ordinance, but in everything we do. And if there's any problem with that, you call me, and I will deal with it, and we will deal with it the right way. I review the actions of our officers on a daily basis, and in this particular situation, I want you to feel comfortable that this ordinance, council is doing their best to put something in place to protect the interests of the citizens in the neighborhood. And we will use that ordinance as justly and as fairly as we can. Madam President, that's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that clarification.
Before you
Are there-
walk away, Chief, what happens if the complainant does not show up to these hearings?
If the complainant does not show up, first of all, the police officer, we tried to not have the citizens involved. We tried to do the investigation ourselves. But common sense tells you, sometimes we get there, the incident with the animal is over.
Right.
So we go to the citizens and we tell them, we have them do a written statement. And we prepare that. If they do not show up to answer your question, we can see why. We can ask for a continuance. If they do not show up and they are the integral part of the testimony, that would be up to the magistrate to rule how he sees fit.
Does the animal owner get the right to find out who's making the complaints?
Well, yes, if it goes to a court of law, a magistrate, or whatever procedure, the individual has the right to be defended there. And Gavin could shed it, and obviously it'd have his due process, and be able to cross-examine any evidence that's taken into account and be reviewed. That's what I said, there is a very responsible check and balance through the system once the charges are filed through the magistrate. If the individual is not does not like the disposition there is an appeal process to hear it again, to see if it is. That's the procedure.
And I assume this is going to be all at the discretion of the officer, whether or not this becomes a nuisance.
You know, Councilman Murphy, we do discretionary common sense things every day, not just along this nuisance ordinance, but we do that. We apply the law fairly. As I try to explain, we evaluate all the circumstances. We exhaust every avenue to hear everybody's story, and then we make good, sound decisions when we have to charge somebody. And then we have to have the evidence behind that to bring a case. We don't want to bring a case we bring it because we feel it's just, it needs to be done, and it protects the best interests of our good citizens.
So what would you think if there was a case of, say, reactive barking? I was stopped this morning to pick somebody up at 8:15, and when I pulled in, the neighbor's dog barked at me. And then when I dropped them off at 6:30, the neighbor's dog barked at me. And I said, how often is that happening? He goes, every time someone walks up and down the street or drives up and down the street, all day.
Okay, what you're alluding to, common sense, I don't think charges would be appropriate at that. If the dog was barking constantly, first of all, we want to check on the welfare of the animal while it's barking. That would be first and foremost. We do an investigation, knock. And most of the time, people are amicable, and we tell them, you got to keep the dog. It would depend upon the hours. If the dog's barking in a natural situation, we're not going to do it. Again, we're going to apply good common sense to each and every particular instance that we're called. And this isn't the first time this is, but we've had dog calls. I started here in 1978, forever, and we've always dealt with them fairly and using good common sense and discretion. This isn't something new. This has been a problem for years. Unfortunately, it escalated for these people in a tremendous way. Like it was just a very, very bad thing. But I don't think this ordinance, and I'm allowing my personal opinion, is put in any way, shape, or form to hurt anybody, and we are aware of that, and we will justly and properly enforce it.
How many people a year have been fined for nuisance pets?
I don't have the data on that, but I could get it for you. I would think most of them we amicably work out by just talking to people. I'm not going to quote a number because I don't know. If you would like that, I'd be glad to research that for
Well,
you.
unless we don't vote tonight, it'll be too late. All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is citizen comment related to the nuisance. Please come forward, and first person come up, and then the next person wants to speak can stand behind them. We'll have two people on deck. Go ahead, you're up first.
Joe Marvel, 9499 Catherine Drive. I'd like to thank council for taking under consideration about the ordinance, about nuisance, continuous parking, and so forth. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Kay Walmsley, 1453 Montgomery Road. And I agree with Steve that seems to be excessive, especially when it depends upon the good nature of Chief DeSanti and his officers in order to create a fair situation. The thing that really bothered me was number 3. Any dog or animal who scratches, digs, defecates upon any lawn, tree, shrub, plant, building, or any other public or private property other than the property of the owner or person in charge or control of such animal is hereby declared to be a nuisance. I mean, that includes the person that brings their little doggy bag and that, cleans up after themselves. And it kind of means that you can't walk your dog anywhere, which is, I think, excessive. Now, I do understand that dogs and any pet can create a nuisance situation, and we need to protect against that. But I see this as excessive. Thank you.
Steve O'Pavlik, 542 Adams Street. I think the fines are excessive, and I think that before you Nimrods would vote on this and forget about everything we've said, you need to consider the habitual complainer, and if they're going to be fined for habitually complaining when there's really nothing founded. Thank you.
My name's Lori Anderson, and I live at 9802 Braywick. I had a dog that was attacked by an individual who has, 15 dogs on Park Edge, and she clearly did not have control over her dogs. In fact, she used them in a very aggressive manner. So my dog had to go to the vet. I had to sue her. We went to the magistrate, where she explained that her husband had, when my attorney asked she had 3 pit bulls on one leash that was tethered 3 ways. Mine was a Cocker Spaniel. And she came across the street and aggressively had her dogs attack my dog. Then in Magistrate Wagner's office, she indicated that my dog attacked her dog, but her dogs were approximately 200 pounds to my dog, who was 23 pounds. In any event, there is examples where some people are so aggressive and have not acted reasonably or fairly to the rest of the neighbors. I went to the police and filed a claim. We went to the magistrate, and she was declared guilty. She appealed it, and we went to court downtown, and McCandless represented me as well as the DA, and she was declared guilty as well. So in all of my experience, the police handled everything very fairly and very equitably, but it was a process we had to go through. But she took advantage of the animals. She was exploiting the animals. And then also in the court that we had at the magistrate's office, my attorney asked her when she said my dog attacked her dogs, and that they were injured by my dog. And my attorney said, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I gave them antibiotics. And she said, oh, well, let me see the veterinarian bill. And she said, oh, I didn't. I got it from my husband. He's a doctor. And so my attorney said, well, and this is all in Magistrate Wagner's documents, that he was giving her antibiotics to give to her dogs. So again, she wasn't treating her dogs appropriately by getting drugs from a doctor and not a veterinarian. So again, I'm just speaking for one example, but I can hear those dogs on Braywick from Park Edge. Whenever they're being fed, they bark and they bark and they bark. So it is a nuisance. But the police have handled what I consider my case, which was extreme, very fairly and with due process. So I'd like to see people like that punished because they take advantage of the dogs and the rest of us. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Paul Geary, 9515 Catherine Drive. I don't think it's proper to have a kennel in the neighborhood. I've had occasions when there's 3 to 4 dogs on a leash, defecating, no plastic bags in sight. A friend follows, another 3 or 4 dogs. Half hour later, another 3 or 4 dogs. So it's obvious there's 20 plus dogs. I don't think it's right to have a kennel in the neighborhood.
Jack Owen, I'm at 9528 Park Edge Drive. You heard from me before, so I'm not going to go on at length. But I do want to commend you for a step in the right direction, but it doesn't quite go far enough. I think there still needs to be strong consideration to limiting the number of dogs that are allowed, whether that number is 5 or 7. And in support of that, some of our neighbors on Park Edge and Catherine are elderly and are unable to attend meetings. But there is very strong support, and I wanted to read one letter that I got, and I know Mr. Wakakis has received other communication, but I just wanted to share this one. It's from Carol and Dr. Scott Netor, who live on Park Edge, 3 houses down from me. I don't remember the number. But she writes to me, "Dear Jack," and I won't read the whole thing, but "Dear Jack, thank you very much for addressing the problems presented in our neighborhood by the behavior of Diane Bandy and Andy Koo. Scott and I," that's Dr. Scott Netor, "and I support your efforts to limit dog ownership to 5 dogs per household. Diane Bandy's huge dog population is both noisy and threatening." She goes on to say, I'm skipping part of it, "Scott and I are happy to sign any petition or take any action required by the town council to solve this issue. Thank you again for taking the initiative in this matter. We support your group 100%. Cordially, Carol Netor." Thank you very much.
Hi, Steve Scheidler, 9534 Park Edge Drive. I presented last time. I'd just like to follow up on it. Again, commend you for at least taking a move forward in the right direction. I think we're still missing some components here, though. The ordinance in and of itself really doesn't provide enough definition. I know that Steve has voiced his opinion, and we heard other opinions here this evening. I don't disagree with that. I think more can be done. As a matter of fact, I went and I looked at the city of Allentown. I've also looked at the city of Lancaster, PA, and there are quite extensive ordinances which really do put a lot of definition into it to allow that fairness to occur when there is a nuisance that comes around. I think one of the other things that those ordinances handle is the number of pets. And it defines and it allows for people to have litters as long as they don't harbor those animals for extended periods of time and unload them. So I think a lot more could be done by this council. And again, we got to go back to the safety thing. We heard this evening about the animal that was attacked on Braywick. That could have been a child. And there's plenty of children in that neighborhood. That's my number one concern. We had, specifically my wife and I, had to make sure that we had our eyes on our kids at all times when they were out in our yard because we live directly across the street from this. Somebody will get attacked, and there will be a bigger issue if you don't limit the number of animals. And it's the irresponsible pet owners that I'm talking about. I love dogs. I had dogs when I was a kid. I don't have one today, but I love dogs. I want to see these animals controlled, and I want to see the irresponsible pet owners take responsibility for what they're doing to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Alan Sakala, 9516 Catherine. So I guess my position in hearing what I've heard is I'm not sure we've framed the approach, Mr. Mertz, properly. That's how I see it. The fines is one piece of it. But when I look at move to adopt, to establish escalating penalties, I think we all agree with that.
Yep.
The levels, who came up with those, maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. You've got some opinion on them, that's fantastic, some feedback. But I don't think that's the issue. I think everybody here wants to be fair. Nobody wants somebody to lose their house, lose their car, have to mortgage penalties. But what we want is a community to have a guideline around a nuisance situation involving dogs or pets. We love pets. I have a dog. My dog's 16 years old. She's got her days and nights confused. I take her out at 2 in the morning when she has to go to the bathroom. If she started to bark, I would bring her in because that wouldn't be fair to my neighbors. It would be terrible if someone called this ordinance upon me because she started to bark at 16 years old at 2 o'clock in the morning if I immediately did the right thing as a good neighbor. That's not what we're looking at. That's reasonableness. And Chief, I believe you, but also as an executive for many years, I needed guidelines from HR. I needed principles that I could then apply my fairness to. If I went to a situation as an executive and had to judge an employee on what I thought was fair or not, it would be terrible.
Alan?
Precedent would be all over the
Real quick,
place.
nothing against you.
Yeah.
And it's nothing against everybody else.
No problem.
But when you turn and face
I
them, the people
apologize.
who watch tomorrow on the video
I
won't be able to
apologize.
hear you.
So I agree, having fair people.
You can turn and face them, but grab the mic with
No
you,
problem.
turn it around with you.
I don't need to. I think there's a problem when we don't provide our code enforcement people and our law officers clarity.
I agree.
This is an issue of some reasonableness. There isn't, that my neighbors aren't unreasonable. And I will also tell you, in the last month, I've spoken to a number of people, not on Park Edge, not on Catherine. I was at a funeral this past week. You know well where I was, Bill. And I brought this subject up. Most people aren't aware that within the town of McCandless, it's hard to enforce a situation where there is an extreme number of animals. That's the problem. Reasonableness on a pet should be managed properly, should be judged properly so that good people trying to do the right thing or a one-time off situation. But so our position is this. I believe the current ordinance isn't clear and needs to be addressed. I think I would like to have the, but I would like this group to acknowledge the current ordinance has holes in it that don't provide good clarity to our code enforcement people. I don't know what that is, and I want it to be fair as much as the rest of my neighbors want it to be fair, so it's not punitive for good people. But there are two standard deviations that we're trying to deal with that any reasonable person would say isn't appropriate. And that's what this ordinance should deal with. Those extreme situations that the ordinance doesn't protect within our community with our neighbors. So, A, we believe the current ordinance doesn't provide clarity to deal with this issue for the things that we're concerned about. We're not concerned about one dog barking. That's not what we want to address. We want to address these situations that are, again, 2 or 3 deviations away from normal behavior of owning a pet in McCandless. That's what we want addressed and think it should be addressed. And I will tell you, my straw man poll says 90% of the people, if they were made aware that someone could move in next to them and could have that number of animals, and the ordinance doesn't protect them, their real estate values, the health and safety of their neighbors, have no clue that this hole exists because they hadn't had to deal with it. We've had to deal with it. So I tell you, and last time in our last meeting, there was a gentleman here from another neighborhood on a whole different issue, and he was the first to say, we're with you. He had no clue coming into this meeting of what was going on, but when he realizes that we have an ordinance that doesn't address that, so A, the current ordinance is inadequate. B, I think we should create a task force, a committee. I hate committees and task force. But I also think we need attorneys on it. We need representatives of council. And I think we need some neighbors, not just on Catherine and Park Edge, but our representatives of this community that are pet owners to try to craft something that represents fairness for normal
I'm sorry,
behaviors.
sir. I'm sorry, sir. Your time is up.
Very-
Thank you for your comments.
That should be the address, not working about a fine.
Thank you.
My name's Denise Fuller. I live on Park Edge Drive for over 33 years, and I've seen neighbors come and go. I do not agree with this ordinance. I do not agree people should be fined for having pets. I do not agree on the number of pets people should own. Some people can take care of one child. Some people can take care of 10. Everybody has a different level of, skill set that they have and they use. The Bandys do not live there anymore. I still hear the same amount of barking of dogs. So I do not like somebody singled out for some reason. I mean, I've seen, they walk the dogs. They're very good. If there's an issue, you can call the humane officer down at Camp Horn Road. They will come out and they will do their job if there's issues. But I think this ordinance is totally uncalled for, regardless. If I want to have, 7 dogs, I should be allowed. If they're all little tiny dogs and they're in my house, I don't really see an issue. I don't think the township really should get involved in my personal life and what I do on my own property that I pay taxes for. People in that neighborhood have many acres, lots of property. There's plenty of room. I mean, people have dogs. They run up and down the fence all day. You know what? It might be a nuisance to me, but they are dogs. They do what they do. No one's purposely doing anything, I think, to harm or hurt anybody. So I really think this issue should be tabled, and people should just learn how to get along. I mean, that's just bottom line. There's a lot of things that go on that I do not like in the township, but I'm not going to go and come to the council and say, I think you should make more ordinances. There are other ways to handle issues. I just think that it should be basically tabled. I've been there a long time, and I've seen, there's people that do a lot of unsafe things. People hunt in my neighborhood because they have property, they can hunt. They put blinds up and they hunt deer. I don't particularly care for it, but it goes on. There's a lot of things that go on. I just think that this is not a good ordinance at all for this township because people are going to turn in their dogs to shelters. There will be a high euthanasia rate. I think dogs should be saved. That's the whole point of having shelter dogs. And I have shelter dogs myself. So I don't agree with it at all. I have not been here at the other meetings, but since I've been in the neighborhood a very long time, I'm sure people have issues. I don't like kids screaming, but I do hear it, and I do tolerate it, and that's just the way it goes. We all live in the planet. We have to be a little more tolerant of other people. And people shouldn't be singled out or basically penalized because they have a different lifestyle than other people in this township or any other place. But not limiting the number of dogs and finding people is not the right direction to go in this matter at all. I don't agree with it. I think it should be just leveled. Since I've lived here a long time, I plan to live here for many years to come. So, I'm sorry for my neighbors that have issues, but I just don't think it's the right way to go at all. No finding of people at all, because it's not just here. It would be everywhere in the township. You would discourage people from being basically good citizens and adopting shelter pets and saving lives. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly Sham, Heather Heights Drive. I have to be honest, the first that I was alerted that you were going to change this ordinance was due to Steve. Not everybody in the township is on Facebook, but fortunately, he was the only one that alerted us. As far as his poll is concerned, Kim, I'm a little disappointed because I watched the meeting and you kind of discredited that poll, but you voted on it. So I think what he did was right. I think what you did was wrong. As far as the fines are concerned, you are the highest around here. Hampton is up to $300. Pine Township is up to $300. Allegheny County is $50. Westview is $25. You don't have, as Steve pointed out, where you reset anything like this. So this could continually escalate. I have 2 dogs. The only time my dogs bark when they're outside, they do not go out alone. I take them out, they're in a fenced-in yard, is when there's 3 screaming kids next door, or the kids at the bus stop screaming bloody murder. But I don't call the police. That's in the noise ordinance, by the way. Voices, it says. But nobody calls for the kids, but you want everybody to call for the dogs. If my dogs are barking because the kids next door are screaming, is it fair that I get a fine? They're doing what a dog does. They don't poop in anybody's yard. They don't run after anybody. It should be more clear what a nuisance is. I think it's more of a nuisance if you're going to have a dog run at you or at your other dog. I don't agree with having 20 dogs without having a kennel license. So I don't agree with what she did because that was unfair to her neighbors and very unfair to the dogs. But this is ridiculous. You have to be more specific. A dog barking is not a nuisance unless it is in the middle of the night. You know, but then again, I hear the kid on Coomer with his revved up car at 2 o'clock in the morning, flying down Coomer Road. Nothing's done about any of those things. Or the people that are doing their snow blowing at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're more concerned about a dog barking than you are the other things. And you want to find people for this. I leave my house, my dogs bark. I have them on camera. I heard the screaming kids outside. My dog started barking. What am I supposed to do? I'm not home. I can't tell them to be quiet. So then I'm going to have an officer come to my house and give me a fine because my dogs barked from hearing somebody outside. Again, you are the highest in the townships around here. The highest is $300. And then it resets, which is not what you're putting in here. And Steve's right. That should be in there. And Steve and I aren't buddies here. Okay? You know, but I agree with him. And I think that you need to tell people in the township. People don't read emails. People aren't on Facebook. There's a lot of elderly people in this area. They don't know any of this is going on. I asked my neighbors. None of them know. I went around and asked them. None of them are on Facebook. None of them know this ordinance is even being looked at or changed. That's not fair. That's sneaky.
We have 6 ways to get connected in McCandless so you can know what's going on. So anyone is interested in keeping up with what's happening in the town, we have 6 ways to help you be able to be informed and to know what's going on. Are there any other comments? Please step up to the mic.
John Harrison, 1473 Hedwig. Seeing everything that's going on, this reminds me back to the days before a lot of you that are new members that are on here got involved when there was a building that was going to go up across the street here. And a lot of us all aligned together to fight to have that building put up. That building was Walmart. This is another Walmart problem within the district, within the borough. What really, hearing people say their neighbors don't know, that's bad. That's horrible for us that people don't know that. They live in the borough. There's 28,000 people that live in the borough. How many don't know? So instead of you guys voting on this tonight, why don't we take a leap? Put it on the ballot. Let the general populace decide what happens. So instead of the 7 of you making the choice and the vote, throw it out to the people. Because each one of you represent one of those groups of that 28,000 people. Bill, you represent 4,000 people. Steve does, and you go all the way across. Bill, how many of your people know?
Been on the news about 3 nights now on the major news channels.
Okay. So,
and I've received a number of comments, and I appreciate that input.
Right. And the media got it out there. The news got it out there. But it was probably because somebody called the news once they found out about it to get them involved. Now, something this big of a decision you're going to make tonight for people's lives. I don't see any cameras there. I see a gentleman back there filming everything, and there's no cameras back there. But when anything else was going on, there were cameras in the audience here. So hearing that it was on the news wasn't really that big of a deal or a story because they're not here tonight. Because usually they're lined up across that side. So I would ask for you to think about it. The fines are excessive. Think about it if you have a dog and your thing, it does not get reset. Say your family dog passes away, and that dog was what we're calling a nuisance dog because it barked a lot. The family goes out and adopts a new dog. You have 2 or 3 little kids that love this dog. This dog now is outside when it's out doing its business, and it barks, and you have a neighbor that doesn't like you. What are you going to do? Oh, that's right, it's set at $500. So now we have to have Chief DeStaney's colleagues come out and make a decision on, when it's very open-ended, it's a piece of Swiss cheese as far as what they can decide and can't decide because it's not there. So now he's got to be the bad guy. And then it goes to the magistrate, and the magistrate becomes the bad guy because he has to make a decision on what's given in front of him. So the fine is excessive. And how many of you have dogs? Bill, do you have a dog?
I have, but not now.
This is a time for
Yeah.
comments.
So you all have dogs. Remember, the ordinance you're putting in place, Chief DeStaney could be showing up at your door going, Joan, you have a dog.
I don't have one.
Okay. Kim, you have a dog, I know that. Kim, they show up at your door. Your dog, you know what? Your neighbors are complaining because your dog's barking. You could have a fine.
I don't let my dog bark. I don't. No, I take him home, I take him in, first bark,
But there's a lot of people that don't.
exactly.
But to the extent of where, the same thing that the lady had just mentioned about the kids. I've got kids in my neighborhood that are way louder than dogs, and I can't find them. And I'd love to, because they are a nuisance. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mark Haney, I live at 9572 Park Edge Drive. Steve, initially I disagreed with everything you were saying. You've swayed me. I think the fines are excessive and the lack of a reset is a mistake. I don't think any of us, at least myself, I don't want a fine for every time a dog barks. I've lived in our house for 18 years, and for all of that 18 years, I've dealt with dogs barking from Diane Bandy. To the point where on a nice summer evening, we're closing up the windows and turning on the air conditioning because we can't sleep. That's what we want to prevent. We no longer have dogs, but when we did, they would occasionally bark. We would get them inside. We have people across the street, they have a dog, somebody walks by, he loses his mind for a minute, and then he shuts up. I'm not going to call the police on them. I don't think anybody else would. I don't think it warrants a fine. However, when you have somebody that has as many dogs as that we had at this house, they're not controlled, they're not brought inside when they start barking, that's the problem. So let's not fine everybody every time somebody barks, every time a dog barks. Let's take care of the big problems. The others will sort themselves out. Thanks.
Sir, you can only speak one time per subject, I'm sorry.
Not me, I didn't say it.
All right, if there aren't any more comments, we'll proceed to a vote. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor of adopting ordinance 1491 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Roll call vote. Ward
Ward
two, go ahead.
You?
No, go ahead.
Ward
Go.
2?
Aye.
Ward 3?
Nay.
Ward 4?
Nay.
Ward 5?
Aye.
Ward 6?
Nay.
Ward 7?
Yes.
Ward 1?
Yes. You're out of order, ma'am.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Public Works Committee. Oh, I'm sorry, number 2 and Public Safety.
Number 2, Move to appoint Matthew Shipley as a member of Town of McCandless Personnel Board with a term to commence immediately and expire December 31st, 2020.
What?
Second.
Yeah, well, I couldn't actually hear the motion over here.
Can't hear you.
Move to appoint Matthew Shipley as a member of the Town of McCandless Personnel Board with a term to commence immediately and expire December 31st, 2020.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any comments from council? Any comments from citizens? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Appointment is carries. Public Works.
Move to award a contract to Insight Pipe Contracting LLC for the rehabilitation of a 24-inch storm sewer at Prince Andrew Court in the amount of $47,035 as per CoStar vendor number 016-045.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from council? This contract that we're granting. Any comments from citizens? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contract granted.
Move to adopt resolution number 23 of the 2019 series, a resolution on multimodal transportation funds for the Wexford Flats.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second, or any comments from anyone on council? This is for the updating of the signals on the Wexford Flats. It's a joint,
Joint application.
application with Pine for upgrading of 12 signals, 3 of which are McCandless. Any comments from citizens? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any new business? Public comment. And this can be related to anything that's not on the agenda. Or on the agenda, I guess. Anything.
Hi, Deanna Alfonsi, 9326 Tanbark Drive. I want to voice my support for the resolution regarding the conflicts of interest policy that was discussed at last week's agenda review meeting. I absolutely agree 100% that no one who serves on town council or any other committee should financially benefit from their position. Regarding my role as fitness ambassador for the potential fitness court, I pledged repeatedly and months ago that I will never hold any paid events or classes of any kind on the fitness court should the court come to fruition. I've expressed this to at least one town council member and to at least 3 town administration members, both present and former, as well as to multiple community members. Let me repeat so that it is crystal clear. I will never hold a paid class or event on the potential fitness court, even if I am asked. Never. Despite this position, there were comments made by a particular councilman in last week's meeting that could have been construed as suggesting otherwise. To dispel any doubt at all, I am here to make sure the record is straight on these matters. Both town council and the community at large have the right to know the facts. Fact, the National Fitness Campaign expressed that in order for a town to qualify for a grant, one of the criteria was that it had to have at least 1 or more fitness ambassadors to help promote the court to the community and generate excitement and support for it. I volunteered to do this. I volunteered because I have a true passion for health and fitness, and this project genuinely excites me. I did this to help my community, just as I volunteered for the Environmental Advisory Committee, volunteered to start the Technology Advisory Committee, volunteered to bring the town's first recyclable art show, volunteered to do the TIC campaign, and more. I do these things not for financial gain and not for political advantage. In fact, these projects were already underway before I became a candidate. And even if I don't win in November, I still plan to initiate projects that would create a positive impact. Because frankly, it's my medicine to combat the despair I experience from the news daily. And because I want to set a good example for my children. Fact, I've received absolutely no money or compensation whatsoever in my role as fitness ambassador, either directly or indirectly. This should come as no surprise, because at the town council meeting where Ms. Powers directly asked whether fitness ambassadors received any fees, my response included, quote, no, there's no fees involved. Fact, I have volunteered countless hours in my role as fitness ambassador since summer of 2018. This is in addition to the many other community projects I do. All of this has been done with zero compensation or financial gain of any kind. Fact, I have not handled any money or grant regarding the fitness court. In fact, my understanding is that no money has even changed hands. Simply put, I am not a part of nor privy to that process. It's beyond the scope and role of a fitness ambassador. Last fact, I have been in the process of winding down my fitness business to operate on a minimal level while working a job outside of the fitness industry, in which I go full-time as of next week. Despite these facts, a member of town council stated, quote, "There's a council person who's using this new exercise facility to finance her business," end quote. Not just that she stands to gain financially, but that she's financing her business with a potential fitness court. This is a falsehood. It's hurtful to my reputation, for me personally as a community member, and professionally as a business owner. The worst part, though, is how it hurts my reputation as a mom. My husband and I have 3 children in the NA school district, 5, 8, and 16. The last thing our family needs is for our children to hear that their mother is doing anything less than the right thing, especially when it's not true. My role in being a good example for my children is the absolute, without a doubt, single most important role I hold in my life above all others. Reckless statements do not just affect the person targeted, but those closely connected to them as well. As for the rest of town council, please do not allow an amazing opportunity such as this fitness court to be derailed by those in the community who are misinformed or worse. If any council member has questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with you and answer any questions you may have. And for the rest of us, I just want to remind everyone to please remember that we're all each other's neighbors. Let's treat each other with respect and be kind. Thank you.
Any other comments? Come forward.
My name is Joe Markle, 9499 Catherine Drive. I'd like to thank the people who voted yes for the new ordinance. I also still bring up the question of the number of animals, the health and welfare of animals. Who is going to inspect this kennel in a residential area? How do we know that these animals are not being mistreated? So this lady and her husband get a gold star from Animal Friends and take as many dogs that they didn't train, bring up or anything, take them in a facility in a residential area, and take it upon themselves to house these dogs, would put the firemen in jeopardy when there was a fire. 10 dogs died. They didn't have the proper facilities. So who's inspecting this in the town of McCandless for the health and welfare of the animals plus the citizens? Who is going to take this responsibility? The police chief? He's going to go up there, what, once a week, once a month? Never. They put a gate up. And what they're saying with that gate is, don't enter my property. I can bring 60 dogs up there, and McCandless don't care. And what they're saying is, go get a search warrant. So now, this ain't 200 years ago where this is a farming community. This is a residential area. It's not a commercial area. It's a residential area. So you're saying, we don't care how many dogs you put on the property. How can you take one person or 2 people take care of 20, 30 dogs, cats?
My grandparents took over 100 and never had a complaint.
That's
For
impossible.
decades.
I called 2 vets and they said it's impossible.
This is time for comments.
But
Continue,
anyways,
please, sir.
okay, who's overseer in this? That these people can take any number of animals, I don't care what it is, there has to be responsibility. And then there's the health. You know, you've seen all the people that got attacked. Their animals got attacked. This lady will sing her dogs on you. Pit bulls, beautiful dogs. I mean, these dogs are nice dogs because they wouldn't let you adopt them if they weren't. They're screened. But put them in a pack mentality and somebody sigs them, what's the dog's going to do? They're going to react to it. Now, who's over, you know, you talk about liability here. You know, somebody gets, like one person said, some kids are there, and kids like to play with dogs. these people have all these number of dogs, and you say it's okay. I don't care how many dogs you have. I don't live in that neighborhood, so I don't care. But if I live with Walmart in the neighborhood, then I care, huh? Let's talk about the whole McCandless. And that's like, who is going to inspect this shelter? And that's what it is, a shelter. So anyways, they don't have the facilities. Most communities, if you got over a certain number, then you have to be licensed. And when you're licensed, you need to be inspected. These people are up there immune from this because you refused to do anything about it. But I just want to thank you for passing what you did tonight anyways. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to, I'd like to share some more specifics about my particular case because they are relevant to, my issue was with Diane Bandy and the way she aggressively allowed her dogs, in fact, she encouraged her dogs to come and attack my dog, presumably because it was a full-blooded dog. Oftentimes I heard from neighbors afterwards that she would go after people who had full-blooded dogs or like Labradoodles or things like that, making very aggressive remarks to them. I also speak to one of the points that this gentleman made. Whenever I went to McCandless and reported to the McCandless police officer, he went up to the house right away to try to get the information on the dogs to prove that they had rabies tests or shots and everything. He could not come into the property because it was gated. He was not able to get access to them until at least a day later. And then eventually she gave them the rabies information. But as I mentioned, when we were with Magistrate Wagner, she stated that she was not getting her antibiotics from a veterinarian, but it was her husband, who I believe is a radiologist or something. He's not a veterinarian in any event. So those were the antibiotics that she was giving these dogs. She testified to that. So I also wonder, having that many animals, and who can control them, who can police them, who can inspect them. One of the points I asked was that the dog, the animal warden, he was so backed up in his schedule, he was not going to be able to go and examine those dogs for a long time. So unfortunately, we don't have other options in our system here to monitor those types of kennels. And a neighborhood like ours is not the place for it. So I really hope that you do restrict the number of pets that a person can have. And I think that's great that your grandparents had that many animals, but I don't think it functions well with this particular woman in our particular neighborhood. So I hope you take that into consideration.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Steve Scheidler again. So I was able to pull out a couple of ordinances that from across the state. Really nice examples of a well-defined ordinance and how to manage those ordinances. The city of Lancaster and the city of Allentown, Pennsylvania. They do limit the number of animals, but they also very well define and put boundaries around certain things, right? I don't think any of us here tonight were really trying to just get a fine imposed. I don't think that's
Clearly
all.
4 of us were.
Well, some were, right? So, but obviously not everybody was on the same page. What we would like to do is create a task force and help you to help the community to create something that works for everybody. Invite a certain number of people to the opportunity to speak and work through certain and specific details that allow this to be a very fair ordinance. I think it'd be really helpful to consider that. Look, I have to live in that neighborhood. I have to put up with this. And, Greg, somebody comes in your neighborhood with 25 dogs, you'll understand.
Greg sues people for going to lunch with their wife. Interesting.
So, but what I'd like to do is offer this up, and I think Alan's going to come up here in a second and talk about this as well. I would like to be part of it. I am a pet lover. Again, I don't have a dog today, but I've had dogs in my lifetime, and I definitely appreciate pets. What I'd like to do is ask the council here to consider putting together a petition, or allowing us to put a petition together as an example for you, to go out and get enough signatures to put together a task force over the next couple of months and create an opportunity for a very fair and enforceable pet ordinance within the community. Gavin, I have these two here. I'd like to leave them for you, just as
Absolutely.
example.
Happy to take a look.
Not sure where I should put them right now.
Whichever ends.
Give them to
easiest,
Bruce.
give them to Bruce. There you go.
And thank you again for your time. I realize that this is a tough topic for everyone. We really appreciate what you've done today, but there's a lot more to do. Thank you.
May I make a quick responsive comment to this gentleman's comment?
Sure, William.
And I solicit the president and the council perhaps. Just because we pass an ordinance doesn't mean that can never be changed. It's not written in
Correct.
stone.
We understand.
It can be improved upon, and in light of some of these comments, perhaps that would be a wise thing to do, to take a very thorough examination of it.
I agree.
So I just,
I think that's great, William. I mean, collaboration.
My opinion is this ordinance needs a lot more discussion.
Yeah. We agree, and I know I have 2 minutes left, but I'm still going to allow Alan to speak. And the samples that we've provided, I think, is really going to help accelerate this for you. We're willing to help, because we want to be part of the solution. We don't want to just see people get fined for nuisances that really aren't there and create all this animosity between neighbors. That's not our goal, not at all. Thank you.
So I'll try to summarize. For the folks watching this tomorrow, this is not about creating an ordinance if you have a dog in a neighborhood that kids provoke or situational. That's not what we're talking about. And I believe that if you do a straw man poll on that subject, the vast majority will be against it, because nobody wants to have something so restrictive that what normal behavior for 1 or 2 pets could end up being a problem and being fined. That is not what this is about. Tomorrow, whoever's looking at this, if that's what you think we've been saying, it is not even close. A, the current ordinance is inadequate. B, we would like to have a fair group of representation, attorneys, members of you all, citizens in the community, to try to draft something that we believe represents good local government for McCandless, and that is fair and deals with the excessive, extreme situations, not normal behavior of pets. Last thing we want to do is refocus our police force on basic little issues that would be a huge distraction to the community and the resources. That is not what this is about. It's those extreme situations that an ordinance, and this is not about an individual. People should be allowed to live wherever, but we should create guidelines that represent a good community, and that's all we want. Okay, and I think creating that openly with broad representation is what we're asking. That's it. In a nutshell, I believe if we frame the subject across the however many citizens live in McCandless and say, is it appropriate within this community that a neighbor could come into your community and have these kind of actions? It's not about an individual. It's about the situation that I think the vast majority of our neighbors say, that's not appropriate, that's extreme, it will devalue, it creates a health issue, it creates a safety issue. That's what we want to address. This isn't, in my opinion, about an individual. It's about creating the right ordinance to protect the citizens from this extreme type of situation. Thank you.
Next.
Andrew Koo, I'd like to speak about this situation. I'd like to state for a fact that I have perhaps gotten 1 or 2 phone calls after living 20 years there at Park Edge about it specifically. My telephone number is public, so these individuals certainly have had the ability to call me at any time. I am a physician. I'm one call 24 hours a day. So I find it very disturbing that they have done this behind my back without notifying me. We have responded to any of the police, complaints. We do have a gate. You can walk around the gate. It's the gate that just basically is in front of the driveway. There's a path on either side of the gate. So the police have never had any problems accessing our property. So I find that a lot of this is false information as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Do you feel 20 dogs are excessive?
It's a large number. We do rescue. And we've had to reduce the number of the dogs that we have because we don't have people supporting us full-time. Previously, we did. Our dogs are very well taken care of. They're seen by the veterinarians. We spend probably $20,000 to $30,000 a year or more taking care of them. Our dogs have had chemotherapy for cancers. Most people wouldn't do that. Fortunately, as a physician, I'm able to afford it. Most of the dogs that we have are actually dogs that are, well, not most, but a number of the dogs that we have are not adoptable. They would be killed at shelters automatically. We are able to take care of them because our house is zoned. We have a large backyard. We moved specifically to McCandless because the township has no specific ordinance and therefore it defaults to the county level. And so we have never exceeded the number of animals permitted legally. So we're very, very disappointed that, this has occurred. And our dogs do bark. Usually it's because kids are making noise. We have deer in the backyard because we have a very large backyard. We've, allowed some of our grass to basically go back to nature. So we're very supportive of conservation efforts. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Off subject of the dogs, I would say you were in the top 10 people that I've had complaints about, actually before I was even on council, with all the signs and the dead baby effigies hanging in the front yard off the gates. And is there any reason or need for that?
That's my wife's personal free speech.
And you don't think that's affecting the neighbors in the area? None of this is affecting the neighbors?
It's probably affecting some of the neighbors, but this is the United States. I was born here in New York, and I'm proud of this country.
If you were to buy a house, would you buy a house that was next to a home that looks like yours or that has 20 animals?
You can't see the animals from the street.
That's not the question I asked.
Well, I personally would.
Most people would not.
Well, that's their own choice. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Paul Heckman, 10529 Abbey Lane. I'm always amazed at some of these conversations just because I know other municipalities have handled these things and sometimes looking for models that are there, but we also have state laws, county laws, and just going through to see the question about how many pets is too many and where you go with those things, because I know when I had two, sometimes my two may have broken a noise ordinance or two, but again, we pulled them right in to do that. But according to the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, you have to have a current kennel license if you operate a facility that keeps, harbors, boards, shelters, sells, gives away, or transfers a total of more than 26 or more dogs in one calendar year. So if nothing else, the state has mandated a maximum number that would seem to be something that flows down to the township in one way, shape, or form. I don't know how many others there are. I know, as some of the speakers have said, they've looked at some of the other ordinances for the amounts of the fines and what they do to control this. It seems like it happens everywhere. This isn't something that's unique to McCandless. There has to be other really good examples of things that come across as fair and reasonable to everybody involved, or at least the majority of people involved. Thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?